Welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another edition of the Spurs Chat podcast, where, of course, we will be discussing Tottenham's 2-0 defeat at Old Trafford this evening, Manchester United 2, Tottenham Hotspur 0. Before I introduce my very special guest to talk about the game, if you're watching on YouTube, please do hit that subscribe button, like and share. And if you're listening on an audio platform, please do hit that follow button and leave a review if you can. And I'd just like to take this opportunity as well to say thank you so much for all of your great support this week, the comments and the messages sent to me this week. So, of course, Manchester United have just beaten Tottenham Hotspur at Old Trafford. Goals from Fred and Fernandes. Spurs now stay third in the Premier League, beaten by a very dominant Manchester United tonight. Now, let me introduce the three very special guests today. Of course, we've got Richard Whitehead back with us. Double Paralympic 200-meter gold medalist and marathon record holder. Rich, how are you?
Yeah, it's the only laugh you're getting tonight.
Oh, I think it's the only time we're going to see any trophies in the near future, isn't it?
Yeah, no, I'm good, mate. You know, obviously, win, lose or draw, I'm always honoured to come on the show. Very disappointing tonight. Very disappointing. I do disagree with the man of the match, though. I think man of the match was Hugo tonight. He made like about 13 world-class saves.
Yeah.
And apart from Alan Shearer, brown nosing, blooming Man United all game, I think he would have got man of the match. Alan Shearer, what was he on tonight?
We'll get into it. We'll get into it, Rich. We'll get into it.
I'm all disappointed.
I was more interested about your medals around your neck because, of course, you've won so many medals, and I just want to see these Spurs players winning medals and winning trophies, which are way overdue. Of course, Craig likes a medal as well. We've got Craig, channel regular, and of course, big Emerson Royale fan. Craig, how are you this evening?
Oh, look, it only took 2 minutes. It's the first time I've smiled in about 2 hours. So thanks for that, Chris. Yeah, bloody awful tonight, wasn't it? Absolutely dreadful, but we'll get into it.
Well, I'm absolutely delighted to welcome Sash Patel to the channel for the very first time. Of course, former Hotspur hero, co-founder of Spurs Reach, board member of the Football Supporters Association. Sash, welcome to the channel. How are you?
Yeah, all good, thanks, Chris. Considering what we had to go through for the last 90 minutes or so. Yeah. But no, thank you very much for having me on tonight. Wish it could have been under different circumstances.
Exactly right. Exactly. Well, it's a pleasure to have you here. Sash, tell us a little bit about Spurs Reach, how it started. And for those who know nothing about Spurs Reach, please explain what it's all about.
Brilliant. So, yeah, Spurs Reach is the official race, ethnicity and cultural heritage supporters association for Spurs. We launched back in May. And it was set up by myself and another couple of co-founders, Fahim Rahman and Anwar Uddin. And Anwar heads up the Fans for Diversity campaign at the Football Supporters Association. So we're all passionate about the club, but we're also passionate about equality, equity and diversity. And the real aim for us was to get as many people as possible from diverse and underrepresented ethnic communities the opportunity to come and be a part of Spurs, be a fan, and lots of these people are within the local community that surrounds Tottenham itself. You know, Tottenham's one of the most diverse parts of the country, and one of the most diverse and sort of parts of the country with underrepresented ethnic backgrounds. And for us, it was really, really important that we get a group together where we've got people who are like-minded, who want to come and listen, learn from each other, and what we can then do is try and work out how best to engage with people who don't probably feel comfortable right now coming to football in general. And that's a real shame because football brings people together. It normally draws people in together. And for me, my dad brought me to Spurs in the 80s, and I still blame him for that now. But for me, it's all about engagement. It's all about people feeling comfortable, happy that they can come along. I've got a 4-year-old daughter. She's a season ticket holder with me. I want her to enjoy it as much as I do, and probably not have to go through some of the stuff that I've experienced at football earlier on in my life. So that's the group at the moment. There's about 250 people part of the group since we've launched in May. and we've done some great things. We've had some events already. So we've had South Asian Heritage Month, which was between July and August, which was a virtual event which was a bit of a educational piece. But then we had Ledley come along as well, and who was able to share some of his lived experiences. Being a local lad around the area, and being a one club man. And then last Saturday we had a fantastic event at the stadium before the Everton game, where we were celebrating Black History Month, and we had a great panel which was hosted by Troy Townsend from Kick It Out, and we had some great panelists. So we had Chris Powell, who's part of obviously the coaching staff, Ledley King, Rebecca Walker, who's a journalist and covers Spurs and is part of the Spurs fabric within the media. And then we had AJ Tracy, who's a big Spurs supporter as well. So great fun day, and it was really nice having you there, Chris, and your son as well. And hopefully, hopefully a lot of people got a lot out of it, and we've got lots more to come as well.
Great work.
I was going to say, Sash, it was a great event at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Have you got any other events coming up in the near future?
Yeah, so we'll have stuff definitely planned. It was probably going to be on probably next year for an in-person event. We're still working on some stuff at the moment, but what we are doing with all our members is really engaging with them and just keeping them up to date in terms of big things that are happening with different cultures, festivals, etc. So we've got Diwali coming up on Monday, so that's a big thing because we've got a big Asian following within, big Indian following, and within Spurs itself. But it's just all about getting people to know about their fellow fans. We sit amongst each other in that big, massive stadium. Why not know a bit more about your fellow fan who sits next to you for the 19 home games and all the Champions League games this season? Yeah, why not? That just brings us closer together, really.
Well, if you want any more information, do visit Spurs Reach or get in touch with Sash, and he will kindly answer any questions that you may have. Now, let's get into the football. Of course, Manchester United 2, Tottenham Hotspur 0. I think it's fair to say it could have been a lot more. Rich, let's start with you. Your thoughts on the game?
I'm not going to get those 2 hours back in my life, am I? Absolutely terrible. And yeah, Hugo just kept it down to a football score. It could have been a cricket score by half time. I think we looked flat. Sonny and Kane didn't really have a touch all game. Players were just not on it really. I think at the back we looked vulnerable. The short passing was non-existent. I think at half time, Antonio should have really changed it up. I think he's a little bit to blame at half time. Just really disappointing. I think we'd had a couple of games, obviously, where we picked up those 4 points. Obviously, one in the Champions League, and then obviously the 3 points against Everton. And players just looked out of sorts. I think it might have been a good chance to use those squad players. I've been calling for those 5 in midfield. Today, I just think players didn't understand the system they were playing, and I think maybe Lucas Moura should have been played from the start. I think he came on to give a little bit of energy, but I'm clutching at straws, to be honest. Very disappointing. I know fellow Spurs fans have just watched that in disbelief around. We just didn't even compete. As a professional athlete myself, you just want to compete. You want to be throwing yourself in there. And I'm not a massive Højbjerg fan myself, but at least he was getting around him a little bit tonight. But still gave the ball away far too much. Yeah, very disappointing display tonight.
It's funny because I always mention about us going to Stamford Bridge and the Emirates Stadium and never really putting in the performances to get us the results. Old Trafford is one of those places as well. That is now the 39th time that we've lost to them in the Premier League, the most we've ever lost to any Premier League team. Rich, let me just stay with you a minute, because the subs, Antonio Conte didn't make a sub until the 81st minute. I just feel that game was crying out for a change. Why is he not changing anything any sooner?
You just look at the goals for instance. Both goals were mistakes. Man United had so much possession, so many opportunities. First goal, obviously, it was a deflection. The shot from Fred was going straight to Hugo in the centre of the goal. The second one, obviously, the ball rebounded off Eric straight to Fernandes, who'd already set himself to put it in the corner. And for me, I just think Antonio looked at the game and went, well, obviously after the 70-odd seconds when they scored, he was hoping that Harry and Sonny would just nick a goal and then would come away from it with a point. That's what I felt. But I just didn't think he went after the game at all. It was just like, let's just hold off formation and then hopefully get something off the break. But Harry just didn't look on it today. He looked very tired. Didn't have any opportunities. Obviously, the one that he did have was offside. And yeah, I just think it was flat. Even Antonio, really, he wasn't his normal self. Yes, he was kind of Basuma a little bit, who was having a go out towards half time because he just wasn't actually staying in the position he should have. But apart from that, weak in all areas. Davis, he wasn't his normal 7 out of 10. He was like 5 today. I think he was weak. And if we want to be a top 4 side, like I've said it for the last 6 months, some of those players, whether they play well for 3 or 4 games, aren't top 4 players, and they've showed that tonight.
Craig, let's come to you. Let's get your thoughts on tonight's match. Is it fair to say that this feels like the Arsenal game where we just didn't put a 50?
Yeah, you absolutely nail on the head there, and a lot of what Richard said there, I totally echo it. It's for me, what's a little bit worrying, whenever we've come up against teams with a little bit of substance, with something about them, we've struggled. We were lucky to get a point at Chelsea. I think we all acknowledge that. Even West Ham, where it's it's a great level of local London derby, we were lucky to get the point there. Obviously, lost well at Arsenal, and then again tonight. And when you look at the teams that we have got results against, they're kind of, I think there's 4 in the bottom 4, isn't there? Certainly in the lower half of the league. So it is a bit worrying. They none of them seem to know what they were doing tonight. So many misplaced passes, miscontrolled balls. You're right, it's the 3 in the middle, which I think a lot of us have been calling out for, just didn't work tonight. I thought Bissouma looked lost most of the evening. Out of the 3, I think Højbjerg was definitely the best out of the 3. I thought Bentancur didn't have a very good game. Hugo Lloris absolutely outstanding. He could have literally been 10-0 tonight. I think that's fair to say. Sonny and Kane hardly got a kick. I think we definitely missed Kulusevski tonight, and the option of having Richarlison as well. Why he didn't change it even at half time, I think it's fair to say Mourinho would have. And Poch would have changed it a bit earlier, perhaps as well, just looking at previous managers and what they would have done. The whole performance just wasn't good enough tonight. I don't know what it is, if I'm honest with you. I really don't, because if you can't get up for a game at Old Trafford, where, as you said, Chris, our record is as bad, if not as worse than at the Emirates or certainly Chelsea. I don't know what we're doing. I don't know why you're playing football, to be honest, if you can't get up for a game at Old Trafford.
You know how I feel? It's like watching Spurs. When we used to watch Spurs like in the 90s, where Manchester United were so dominant and they would have chance after chance after chance. That was like that tonight. I couldn't believe what I was seeing, because you've got Antonio Conte as the manager. Now, there's a comment here, Craig. Let's take this comment. If this was Jose Mourinho, you'd be calling for his job. Is that the way you feel?
I think that's not far from the truth, to be honest with you, because I can't deny that there will be fans questioning the manager, and I think we've got to question Conte's tactics tonight, because I think he was outthought, and I just think the whole setup tonight was wrong, and he was too slow to react. I think we all saw that it needed changing. I'm not sure what I would have done, if I'm honest. I think I would have given Brian Gill a run, to be honest, after that performance, a little cameo the other day, and perhaps given Spence a bit more time. Obviously, he's starting to trust him, and he was getting forward at least at the end. But it was just appalling. You usually get one or two players that have bad games in this situation, but I think the whole team, bar the goalkeeper, was shocking. I think that's fair to say. I don't know one outfield player really I would have given anything more than a 5 tonight, and I think that's being generous. So he is a bit worrying. He's very worrying. And you're right. Those 90s games. Do you remember Alex Ferguson used to say, "Don't worry, lads, it's only Tottenham." You know, and that takes me back to that sort of saying. And even the time that we were 3-0 up at the old White Hart Lane and they beat us 5-3, I think it was.
Yeah,
it was that, you know, it's that sort of feel. And as I say, I'm a bit worried about when we come up against teams of any sort of substance and how we're going to perform. Something's got to change.
Yeah, we're as poor as Arsenal in the Arsenal game. You just look at, I think in some areas even worse.
So slow. It was,
yeah, and also that kind of lateral passing that we were trying to get away from. Obviously, when Harry Winks came out this side, we all saying, "Oh, Harry Winks doesn't pass the ball forward enough. It's always lateral or backwards." And tonight, that was poor. I think from the first minute we looked under pressure on the ball. For some reason, Eric Dyer had a very poor game today, and then he obviously got twatted in the face with a ball, and then it even got worse then. So for me, yeah, weak. Hugo, 8 saves in the game, man of the match for me. It could have been a football.
Sash, let's come to you. Let's get your thoughts. And all I can do is apologise on inviting you on this show when, of course, it's been such a bad performance this evening. So apologies about that. But let's get your thoughts on tonight's game.
Well, John, it's my own fault for not coming on after the Everton game, really, wasn't it? So I'm the only one to blame, really. John, when you give the man of the match to the goalkeeper, it's, you know, something's gone wrong with the rest of the team. And that's the key thing for me. Like the guy said, John, we could have been 10-0 down today, especially in that first half. I mean, Hugo really kept us in it. The disappointing thing is that no changes were made early on. For me, we knew we were out of the game. You could tell we were out of the game from the first half, and that's what was really disappointing. Is that, yes, we haven't got Kulusevski on the bench, but equally we had Moura and Gill, and it's do something, make a change, because you know what you've got on the field right now isn't working, and that's what I struggle with sometimes with Conte. Is, you know, when we're winning, it's great. You know, Conte ball is fantastic, but when we lose, there's no positives that come out of it at all, and that's the frustrating thing about watching tonight. Is, you know, I was speaking to other Spurs fans before the game, when they all said the same thing. It's, well, we don't really know what's going to happen. We always struggle at United, but to play, I thought we played worse here today than we did against Arsenal at the Emirates. I thought we were appalling. There was no real creativity in the middle. Yes, we had 3 there, but they seemed to have 1 spare man all the way through, that's it's just, yeah, we're getting found out. And that's the problem. And people know how we play, and they adapt into that. And I'm just struggling to see how, you know, what we're going to do, because we've got Liverpool coming up. We've got a couple of big Champions League games coming up, and this could completely start changing our season if we don't start making positive strides and get back to sort of, you know, the early form that we had right at the start of the season.
It's interesting though, Sash, isn't it, that a lot of fans, you know, certainly in the last couple of weeks, were calling for the 3-5-2 formation. A comment now on screen. It doesn't matter what formation or tactics we have. If players can't pass, then it doesn't matter. We need to flush out those players from the old era who have that Spursy gene before it infects new players. In your opinion, what is the best formation that Antonio Conte can play against Manchester United at Old Trafford? Did he get it right tonight?
The result doesn't say that he got it right, but I think we needed the 3 in midfield. I think if we had 2, then it could have been a lot worse. Personally, that's my opinion on it. We just weren't strong enough. We weren't getting to the ball quick enough. Every time we got the ball, you know, it was a haphazard passing. You know, like Rich said, you know, we were either going back or lateral. There was no real clinical passing within that team, and that's what we're struggling with. I know his formations don't allow for that creative centre mid, but I still want that, you know, as an option. If that's not his game plan to have that type of player for every game, but I think we still need it to bring out and do something different, because at the moment we're not doing anything different. We can't react to situations quick enough, and that's the worry.
Sash, in your opinion, why is Antonio Conte not making changes sooner? Because, as I mentioned earlier, in the 81st minute, he made a treble sub, followed by a couple of subs right at the end. Why is he not changing it up sooner? Is it the fact that he doesn't trust those players on the bench?
I don't know whether it's not about trust. I just don't think he feels that the impact, I think he gets to a point where he feels, well, nothing's going to happen. With the players that I've got, nothing's going to change. So by bringing them on, what's actually going to happen? That's what it feels like, because it was a bit like that with Arsenal. He started ringing in the changes, and what happened with that? We knew that it wasn't going to change the real dynamic of the game. We had lost, and I think it was sort of damage limitation at that point. So I don't know whether it's the trust. I think he's got an idea of who his key 11 are, and the rest of the players just don't meet the same level of standard to impact change. So I think it's going to be Levy, put your hand in your pocket again, but actually getting players that he wants, rather than trying to bring in players. And to be fair, Spence may not be a Conte signing, but for the little cameo he had, I thought he did well.
Yeah, for sure. I think he offers something slightly different, doesn't he? And I reiterate what you say. I think you look at the game itself. We were playing out from the back for like 70 minutes before we did that first long ball, and I'm going, why are we not it's obviously not working. The pressing is far too high to be playing out the back. You need to have that target man. Why is Kane not holding it up and then bringing other people into the gameplay? Why have we not got midfield runners? It just felt dysfunctional tonight for sure.
Craig, just before I come to you, there were 4 other games in the Premier League this evening. Bournemouth 0, Southampton 1, Brentford 0, Chelsea 0, Liverpool beat West Ham United 1-0, and Newcastle 1 against Everton 1-0. Craig, let's come to you on this comment. Royale on the right would have helped Manchester United pressing so hard down their left. It's interesting because we're going to talk about Emerson Royale and Matt Doherty, whether Antonio Conte will choose either Doherty or Emerson later on. But if Emerson was there tonight, would it have been better or worse for us?
With respect to anybody's opinion on Emerson Royale, I don't think he would have made a huge difference, to be honest with you. I don't think that would have affected the game. You've hit the nail on the head there in your own statement. They were pressing us high. I don't see what having Emerson in there would have done other than let them come on to us more. The way to have played Man U tonight was fight fire with fire, in my opinion, and try and get out and press them high. And we just did. To be fair to them, I thought Manchester United played brilliantly tonight. As for the fact we were bad, I thought they were brilliant. They knew exactly what they were doing. They had a game plan. They executed it to the letter. They were quicker to everything. They were picking up the first balls, the second balls. I don't see any of those players on our bench, even though I was crying out for a change. I think you should have made the changes 20 minutes earlier. I think Manchester United were just like you said, the Manchester United of the 90s tonight, albeit we were poor, but I'm not sure any of those players would have come on. It's just it was one of those games tonight where I think you could have changed all 10 players, outfield players, and I don't think it would have had that much effect. It was just one of those games where everything was going wrong and the players just went up for it for whatever reason. I don't know what that was.
Well, let's talk about the starting 11. Of course, Antonio Conte went with the 3-5-2, Hugo Lloris in goal, the back three of Romero, Dyer and Davis, the wing backs Doherty and Perisic, and then in the centre of midfield, Bentancur, Basuma and Højbjerg, and then up front, Harry Kane and Heung-min Son. Subs today, Skip, Sanchez, Brian Hill, Sessegnon, Forster, Spence, Tanganga, Mora and Lenglet, and notably, Eriksen and Ronaldo were on the bench for Manchester United. Sash, let's come to you. Any surprises there? Did you expect this starting 11 tonight?
I think I sort of did, because with Richarlison and Kulusevski not available, I think this was the only formation he had available with the key personnel. So I think it was expected. Quite a lot of us have been calling out for it. I know I've been calling out for 3 in the middle because I know how we are up at Old Trafford. but I don't think it was executed properly. I think that's the shame of it, because when we've had three in the middle, it seems to have worked. I know we've only had it for very short spells so far this season, but it has worked. Today it just didn't seem like it sort of worked. And like Craig said, Man United played well. They did play well. We were poor, but they played quite well, and they found spaces, and they knew our game plan. They probably knew how we were going to set up today based on the injuries, and they exploited us, and they kept coming and coming and coming. And for one point of the game, I think they had like 91% possession for a 5-minute period, and it was just relentless. It was just corner after corner, and they just had the ball. We got the ball, and we couldn't do anything with it. We couldn't get out of our third. And that's what was disappointing. So, yeah, I think the formation, I think it was expected, and I think we wanted it, but we just didn't play fully to our strengths today.
Rich, let's come to you. I get the fact that Manchester United played well tonight. There's no getting away from that. But we should be going to Old Trafford tonight, thinking that we should be going there and getting a result, and perhaps getting the 3 points and competing, as you said. The competing aspect of it. And when you think about the Arsenal performance and think about that performance tonight, why are we not performing when Antonio Conte demands 100% all of the time? And the way that he is shouting at some of those players this evening, a few of them got an absolute rollicking on the sideline.
Yeah, no, it just didn't look like they competed at all, did they? No yellow cards, no real kind of flying into those challenges, even if just to get a reaction from the rest of the players. I felt even they came out after the second half and they were just lethargic. And then the quarters on the break, obviously the deflection, it goes in. Out of 28 shots, one of them is going to get a deflection going, isn't it? So, obviously they've had hard couple of weeks with Champions League and Premier League games. I think fixture pile-ups obviously contributed to that, and you look at the amount of players that have played most of those games. But you still need to understand that if you can't give 110% on the pitch, somebody else needs to come in and deliver the same. I think obviously, yes, Conte has got his favourites, but he needs to be changing up, especially in the next couple of weeks, because like we know, with obviously Liverpool games and some of the other games, Newcastle obviously at the weekend, it's a real tough time for us. We can't be dropping any more points at home for sure, and we need to be competing when we're away from home.
Just before we go any further, I just wanted to get your very quick thoughts, all three of you, on Antonio Conte right now, because he is taking an absolute battering on social media this evening and in the comment section here. Rich, how are you feeling about Conte at the moment?
A lot of Pochettino mentions, isn't there? And
there is
in the comments, and obviously he's looking for another job, or has been maybe touted in other areas for jobs, and he's turned them down for a job that he wants. I don't want to talk about Pochettino. I always talk about Pochettino with Nuno.
I didn't ask about Pochettino.
And Jose, yes, but you were hinting that surely.
No, I wasn't. No,
yes, it was. I think obviously Conte is going to get hammered when not only we lose, but when we play that shit. It's not. I don't think it's his fault. Whose
fault is it?
I think it's contributors or fixture pile up. I think that's one. I think we're still lacking 4 or 5 players in the squad to then look on the bench and actually know the quality that comes on is equal to the quality that we've got on the pitch or that's coming off. I'm seeing now a couple of heads drop as well when we go behind, and that's normally we have that Conte effect where it's the resilience that we played to the 94th, 96th minute, but because we're having to do that time and time again, I think resilience is getting knocked. Antonio definitely needs to take some of the criticism that's aimed at him, because tonight I just felt he was on his heels with his decisions, and he should have seen that at half time and seen that we were going to get punished in the second half. That was the thing that was really disappointing. I was really shocked that Lucas Moura didn't come on in the second half at half time, because I just think his energy would have had an impact, because Basuma didn't do anything the whole game.
Is this fair, Craig? Michelangelo with crayons.
Do
you know what? Can I just say I am genuinely surprised that we have given performances against Arsenal and against Manchester United tonight with Antonio Conte in charge. I know I'm going to probably be battered, by a lot of the people in the comments by saying that, but I am genuinely surprised that he demands so much from these players that they have gone out there twice and performed like that.
But I said that, Chris. I said that we haven't got the players that are able to deliver the performances. I said time and time again that we've got 5 or 6 players that aren't top 4 players. They overachieved last year.
I personally think Conte's got to take a bit of the blame. He's the manager. That's why he's paid the money, right? But, the players have got to take responsibility themselves. They will not walk off that pitch, not one of them except Hugo, surely, and be able to put their hand on their heart and said, you know what, I gave it 110% out there and I couldn't have done any better. And I think that's the main thing, I think the players have got to actually hold their hands up and say, we were crap. The manager can only do so much. I still think Conte is the man to take us forward. I must admit, I would not be calling for his head. Personally, I'm not in that camp. I think that's a ridiculous thing to say. There's still work to be done. There's a hell of a lot of work to be done. But it's the game, I'll come back to it, it's the games, like Chris said, against the Arsenals, against the Manchester United, against the Chelseas. Whenever we've come up against a team with something about them, we have struggled this year. And I think we will continue to struggle. Where Conte has to take the blame tonight, and Richard's hit it on the head, we could all see the way that was going at half-time. And they scored 67 seconds into the second half. All right, it was a mistake. But you might have been able to change that if he changed it at half-time. And I can't for the life of me think why he wouldn't have seen that and decided to change something at half-time. Not make radical changes, not like make 4 subs, bring a couple of people on, a Mora, a Gill, or something like that, change the formation, because the formation wasn't working. But what worries me, we had 3 in the middle tonight and they were still finding space through us in the middle of the park. You look how many times they played through us in the middle. And Bissouma, who had a great game the other day, I thought he looked absolutely lost tonight. Didn't want to really risk passing forward much. It was simple. It was almost like, your Harry Winks, his safe passing sideways and backwards. Not good enough. But you can't blame Conte completely, but you can't blame the players completely. I think it's a mixture of both. But again, it does go to show we are not as far forward as perhaps even us on this podcast thought we were. We've really got to temper our expectations, because that's going to be a fight for top 4 this year. And I tell you what, if we've got any hopes of winning a trophy, that's the sort of teams you're going to come up against later on in the competition. And, I hate to say it at the moment, but we are going to struggle.
Sasha, let's come to you on the same subject of Antonio Conte. How would you come back to this question here, or this point? Conte's football is boring. I don't want to watch it. It's horrible. How do you feel about the football that we're playing under Conte at the moment?
It's a hard watch for a Spurs fan who's used to seeing, dynamic football, attacking football with a bit of flair. But when we've seen that type of football, we've not necessarily won games, and that's the thing. It's, do we want to win? Do we want to win some trophies? Can we be comfortable and happy with just winning and not watching attractive football, or do we want to win with flair? Now, I think all of us want to win with good football, but I think it's, at the moment, I think Conte is really trying to grind out the players in terms of getting them up to a level where they can compete. But I don't think he's fully got all the players that he needs to compete at the right level. And the mentality isn't there. I mean, they came out second half. Yes, we were down to an unlucky goal quite early on, but then the mentality didn't change. Whereas what you're finding is other teams near the top, they step up a gear and they go, right, we need to do something and we need to move forward, and then either the manager makes changes or the players really start holding themselves to account and start really delivering on the pitch. And none of them did that, apart from, I think, Craig, you mentioned Hugo. Hugo was the only outstanding player on the pitch. and he's the captain. And for me, I don't feel like we've got leaders really in the team. I know Kane's the leader at the front and stuff, but I don't feel that there's a real commanding voice in that midfield who sort of holds them up. I know Højbjerg comes across like that, but I don't feel he is. I don't think
It's not good enough. Not good enough.
No.
He's had a good season. You know, give him.
Yeah. I mean, he's
give him
had
that.
the
He's had a good
he's
season.
had some goals. Yeah, I mean, he has done well. I think, but we need leadership in there, and I think that people need to follow the leader on the pitch when things are going bad. Today, I just didn't hear that. You know, you could hear that they were all very, very quiet. They weren't really playing together, and mistakes were happening, and heads were dropping, and that's the problem. As soon as one head drops, the others follow suit, and that was the frustrating thing about watching tonight. So you know what? Definitely, Conte's got a hand in it because he should have made some subs earlier. He knew it wasn't going in the right direction. We could all see it. Need to make some changes. Whether you know they work out or not, we got to try something different. I think that was key. But
Conte's had money as well, hasn't he? Conte's had money to spend, and I think obviously we all go back to that time when Pochettino and Spurs were on a roll, and he wasn't given that investment.
It mentioned him again.
And well, yes, because you know, Chris, you know that I'm a massive Pochettino fan. But I think
618 days, I believe, Mr. Cowlin's mentioned before.
But I think we still need to give Antonio the support and time because obviously we've invested so much in this kind of way of football to try and win a trophy. That's what it's all about, isn't it? As we know, Chris.
Rich, are you a fan of the 3-5-2? And was that the team that you expected to face Manchester United tonight?
Are we still talking about that question?
Yeah.
Oh, obviously, I'm a real big fan of it because it really works. No, I think away from home, I said that 3-5-2 would be better for Antonio Conte's style of play. Tonight, obviously, it didn't work. Whether that's down to fatigue or whether that's down to the opposition or the actual players that were in the positions. At home, when we play 5 in midfield, it's too slow. I think at home, when we've got the 3 up top, whether that's Kulusevski or Richarlison, with obviously Sonny and Kane, I think it makes us more dynamic. But yeah, tonight it was a backward step in lots of for lots of reasons. For some of the players, went back to the old kind of playing, scared, not playing the occasion, not the ball, and yeah, I think they lost the reason why they were playing as well. Like obviously they're playing for the shirt, they're playing for the fans, they're playing because they want to win, and I just didn't see any winners in the team.
Well, yeah, tonight we could have gone 1 point away from top spot. Craig, let's come to you. On the sub bench this evening, Skip, Sanchez, Brian Hill, Sessegnon, Forster, Spence, Tanganga, Mora and Lenglet. When Antonio Conte looks at that sub bench, what do you think he thinks? Do you think he thinks he's got enough depth in the squad on that sub bench to make changes that he perhaps should have done today?
Well, probably not, because the 2 players are missing we touched on earlier, Kulusevski and Richarlison, and they're your 2 main attacking threats. And then I'd say second string, if you like, is Brian Hill and Lucas Moura. So he probably didn't know, but as I'll come back to it, I think we could all see at half time, and I saw a comment in the comments that said it was 0-0 at half time. Yeah, it was, but you've only got to look at how many chances Manchester United created in that first half. They actually created more chances than they've had in any Premier League game complete this season. And that's in the first half. So you could see the way that game was going to go. Manchester United didn't have to do anything differently. They just had to continue doing what they were doing. So, yeah, the bench was weaker, but I still come back to it. I think he should have made changes at half time. And then I don't think any fan would have had a go at him for trying to change things up at half time, even if we'd still lost, because we could all see something needed to happen. I just think it was a combination of things tonight. And what can we do? We just put it down as a bad result and go again. But it seems to be happening, quite regularly now. And we can see when this is happening, and it's against the bigger teams. As Rich said, we got Liverpool soon, haven't we? I think.
Yeah.
In a couple of weeks, and Newcastle is Newcastle next, so that's going to be no pushover. But on the flip side, again, people said in the comments, all these games have been away, and I get that. I do get that, and you'd hope we was a different beast at home. But if you're going to be one of the top clubs, you've got to be going to these places and trying to nick a win or at worst draw. And we've just not made a good account of ourselves at Arsenal or Old Trafford. And as I say, we got lucky at Chelsea, didn't we?
Well, let's go through the key moments in tonight's game. In the 5th minute, Bentancur with a shot, which went just wide. No one up there for him to pass to. For Tottenham, then in the 19th minute, a great ball from Harry Kane to Doherty. He cut inside, shot with his left foot, just wide. And then our first shot on target just before half-time, Doherty to Kane, who hit it first time straight at De Gea. That was it for Spurs in that first 45 minutes. Sash, were you concerned at that half-time break going in that we didn't really create very much?
Yeah, definitely, 100%. I think that's what's been disappointing. I know we won against Everton 2-0, but up front I didn't feel like we were clicking. I don't still feel like we're firing on all cylinders. And that's a real struggle. We're getting the ball into the midfield, but it's that final pass isn't going through. And what we're finding is that Sonny and Kane are getting too wide. There's nobody in the middle then to receive the ball, and we're just sort of firing blanks, really. I mean, we had, I think in the end, 10 shots tonight, and then a couple on target. That's it. And it seems like we're not getting really into double digits, near enough double digits at all in any game, and that's a real disappointing thing. I'm really shocked with the possession, to be honest. I thought we didn't have as much as that. It just felt like we didn't have the ball, and if we ever did, it was lost within the space of the second or third pass, if that. So yeah, that first half was really poor, and I thought, like the others have said, I thought he'd make a change early, because he does. He's done that before. He's not afraid to make changes. So I don't really understand why he left it so late in the end.
Rich, let's come to you. I don't know whether we should talk about all Manchester United's first half efforts, because there are so many of them. Sorry?
I ain't got enough time, have we?
Yeah, that's it. No.
Well, in the 9th minute, Anthony had a shot, Lloris, with an unconvincing save. First of all, it looked a bit shaky, but straight after that, a good save from Fred's long-range effort. Just a minute later, Anthony with a fantastic shot, looked like it was curling into the bottom corner, hit the outside of the post. In the 21st minute, Fred with a good ball to Rashford, who shot, good save again from Lloris. A couple of minutes later, Fernandes with a free kick, good save Lloris. A minute later, Luke Shaw on the volley. Lloris there again. 2 minutes later, Fernandes shot over the bar from just outside the box. It was literally like they were queuing up to shoot. In the 29th minute, Casemiro with a shot just outside the box, just wide. In the 37th minute, Fred with an effort from 20 yards, just wide. There were a lot of chances for them. Rich, how are you feeling at half-time?
Are you taking the piss? Oh, my goodness. They just peppered us. Let me just go back to what you said at the start. That first opportunity that they had, Hugo came out a little bit, didn't he? And then he was wanting to get back into position. And I think what happened was Anthony was trying to chip him, I think, and it literally kind of bounced and he kind of spooned it out for a corner. But apart from that, everything was like world class. Definitely showed his true colours tonight.
I think he thought Dyer was going to get a touch on that with his head, I think, and he didn't, kind of threw him a bit, so I'll let him off that.
And also his legs weren't, I don't think his legs were underneath him anyway. But you'd have thought at half-time, the players would go, what the fuck's going on, boys? Come on, like, obviously, percentage-wise, one of these is going to go in. Something needs to change. We need to be at them. Give them less space on the ball. And it was literally going from left to right, right to left. All the time, and they were just waiting for somebody to be open, like the Partey goal against Arsenal. It was just calling for that, and the Fernandes finish reminded me of the Partey one in respect that Fernandes was just standing still, side foots it into the corner. We can't be giving teams that much time, but also we've lost that press. We need to be pressing the ball quicker. Like, I think tonight we gave Man United far too much possession in key areas. Like, if you look at not just key possession, but also possession in the final third, they had about 250 touches more than us in the final third. I think we had about 60 odd. It was terrible.
I actually think that gets to me more than anything else, because when I was at the Emirates, and of course tonight as well, the way that we have lost these two games, the speed of which these players play at, even taking a throw in, anything to do with the match, they are so fast. The pressing, as you said, Rich, as well.
Momentum.
Rich, let's stay with you. Comment here, and this is more the question I think that you wanted. Lack of quality across the squad is costing us. Players like Dyer and Højbjerg bang average, but 10 players having a day off is a bit weird. More to it. Now, as a professional athlete yourself, do you understand the fact that some of these players just haven't performed tonight? Can you understand that?
Well, they need to have professional integrity, right? And they need to be, if they're not on it for the game, they need to be kind of stepping forward and saying, actually, boss, I think tonight somebody else needs to step in, because I don't think I can deliver the performance you need. And that was clear tonight. It was clear that even I've said before, when a team comes onto the pitch, you can say a lot by body language. They looked like disengaged. It looks lazy. I just felt from the first whistle they were just playing for a draw or playing for a lucky break where Sonny and Cowlin score. It's a wrong way to play away from home. To a team like Man United who are on the ascendancy, they're coming up the league. They've got a newfound impetus to win games at home, definitely, and obviously compete away. For us tonight, I don't know whether it's the mixed messages from obviously the game before to then thinking about the games ahead against Newcastle in the Champions League, but the heads were definitely not in this game tonight. You could tell players were kind of overthinking things. Oh, I've got a couple of yellow cards. I don't want to get any more. Just you need to be playing for the team. You need to be playing for the result. Today, far too many players had off days. And apart from Hugo, like Sasha was saying, I can't think of another player that I would give more than a 6 out of 10. And that's
do any of you think that Antonio Conte said at half time to change anything with the personnel that he had on the pitch? But of course, as Craig mentioned, Spurs went 1-0 down through Fred's goal 76 seconds into the second half, and then perhaps it would have gone pear-shaped, and then those changes didn't happen. Do any of you feel like that?
I don't know. All I know is that we made Fred look like Iniesta again tonight. And Fred is not one of the most popular players at Old Trafford amongst the fans. Yeah, we made him look good tonight. What annoyed me more than anything, they've got a centre back that's 5'6". Why are we not putting crosses in the box? Harry Kane is 6'2". I just don't. Am I wrong? Am I seeing something that I don't get that? He's a good centre back, but you've got to use your height advantage. And Sonny ain't a small guy either. I know he's not known for his heading, but it's just little things. It just seemed. If you're talking about what did he say at half time to change it, I personally didn't see anything.
What I'm saying, Craig, is Conte couldn't have been happy. He did not look happy on that touchline. He wouldn't have been happy whatsoever. And I've no doubt that those players would have got like the Alex Ferguson hairdryer treatment from Conte there. Yeah,
well, you wouldn't have seen it because obviously you was at the game, poor you. But there was a shot on the television coverage of Conte screaming at Bentancur when he ran forward, and he obviously lost the ball or did something. I didn't actually see what he had done wrong. But he's screaming at him, and they're almost having a Barney on the pitch, and he's shouting back at him. So I don't know what he done. So he was, as he does, I'm sure you noticed, he was shouting at them all game, telling them, giving them instructions, and they just weren't doing it, or they weren't performing. So what can you do in that situation?
Another reason, Craig, why I'm so surprised by these performances.
Yeah,
exactly. And what was the? I have to ask you a question, Chris. What was the feeling in the fans at the stadium? Was it? Were they calling?
Not happy, and of course the Arsenal game was exactly the same. The subs should have been made earlier. Everybody's saying it. No matter where you were or watching, where you're watching the game, everyone is saying it. Subs should have been made quicker. To make subs in games where they need to be changed 81 minutes gone, when of course it's too late. It is too late. Sash, let's come to you in the 47th minute. As we've said, 76 seconds into the second half, Fred put Manchester United 1-0 up. What did you make of that goal?
John, we were unlucky. That's the thing. But they capitalised on it. That's the thing. It was two sort of unlucky situations where they've gone off and capitalised. Whereas we didn't do that. We didn't create enough to allow us those opportunities to pounce on, on the ball and get an attempt on target really. And I think that was disappointing. Going back to the previous point that you were talking about, Chris, though, I think Conte, like you said, he would have given them the Alex Ferguson treatment, the hairdryer treatment. But equally, their heads went down straight away, and that was a problem. You could see it straight away. Rich, I think you mentioned it, the body language, and they just felt like, well, we're not going to get back into this, and that was the problem. Whatever Conte had said had gone straight out of one in one ear, out the other, and that was it. We were done.
Like laxatives, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was literally like what he said at half time and the actual football itself.
Yeah, everything, and that was the problem. So and then not having the subs put in, until the 80th minute. Well, that didn't change anything because those players on the pitch just didn't. They weren't up for the fight. That's what it felt like. You had Bentancur going around and trying to get the ball back. You had Højbjerg trying to do the same, but there was no real passion. It's that belief, that passion. It just doesn't feel like it's there. And I don't know whether it's because they're tired, whether because they're playing so many games at the moment and they're just going through the motions. But it's not the Spurs team that we sort of expect week in, week out. We expect more from them. They did turn up against Arsenal, so you'd think with a game like this they would have really wanted to go for it, really go for it, and then bring that back home on Sunday against Newcastle. But now, they're going to feel dejected. I'm hoping they're going to come back and bounce back against Newcastle, but it's going to be a tough test. And, then we've got another game on Wednesday as well. So it's, I'm a bit worried at the moment. And I think if Conte is just going to keep shouting and screaming at them, it's not working. So he's going to have to try something slightly different to get them re-engaged, because otherwise we're just going to, be disappointed yet again.
I think it's fair to say, though, Sash, isn't it, that Conte has transformed this football club, taken us from Europa Conference League to Champions League. I know that we're talking and focusing mainly on the Arsenal and Manchester United game tonight because, of course, they were very poor performances. But overall, we've been a team hard to beat in the last 12 months.
Yeah, we've not been conceding as many goals as we did before. We were notorious for conceding lots of goals. I think on average we're conceding one. Maybe I think it's one a game. We've won a lot more. So it feels like the aura around the players has changed. I think it's around the club has been slightly different. We've given Conte a bit more time as fans to say, okay, we're with you on this journey, and that's what it is. It's a journey, and he has made significant strides. I think right now we're just all disappointed. Oh, still with him. I'm still with him. I still believe in him. I think the problem is that we need a better squad. That's what we need. So we've got a world-class manager. I think we're lacking the players to make it a world-class squad. And I think if we give him the tools to do the job, then he will deliver. And that's what we need. And it was the same thing with Poch. Rich, I'm going to mention Poch for you, mate. And that's if they'd given him the right tools, if they'd given him the players, if they'd spent that bit of money, then it could have been us winning a Premier League, but we'll never know.
Do you know, we seem to have been saying the same thing for the last 3 or 4 years, though, didn't we? We really do. It's like deja vu. It's like, Sasha's dead right, but it's like, back the manager, the squad's not good enough. How long have we been saying that? And we said it when it was Poch, invest now. Time to invest. That Leicester season, if we just managed to buy 2 decent players, I believe we would have got over the line and won that. And we've kind of been the nearly men, haven't we? We didn't invest at the right times. We all know that. Everything is in place as well. That's the most frustrating thing. We've got a world-class manager, world-class stadium, world-class training facilities. They have everything they could possibly want. It looks like the naming rights deal is going to be done before Christmas with either Amazon or Google. Got all the money from that coming in. And I just hope it's invested in the first team, because the time is now. Because if this fails, then Levy has been a failure, hasn't he? And he obviously doesn't want that at all on his CV. But something's got to happen. Something has got to happen. We've got to buy in the January transfer window. Obviously, with the World Cup in between, who knows what's going to happen there with any injuries? God forbid any of our players have long-term injuries. It's frightening to think, though, we buy 6 players in the summer and we're still short. We're still sitting here saying the same thing. The squad isn't good enough. So that just goes to show how far we are behind.
I think it's fair to say, though, Craig, and I even said this back in the summer transfer window right at the end. I know I was very happy with the window early on, but on the final day, I said, I hope that we have another 2 signings, because it always seems, no matter what manager, and people always say that I defend the club and this, that and the other, but I said, it doesn't matter what manager it is, we're always 2 signings short in a summer transfer window, and of course the January transfer window. Always 2 players short. And as you guys have always said, in previous windows, had we got those players, things could have been very, very different. And Pochettino, who Richard keeps mentioning, some people say that he wasn't backed at all. But we do need to move on with Antonio Conte.
Chris, do you know what I find strange and what he said this week? Conte actually said it this week when he was asked about Eriksen. He was singing his praises, wasn't he? He said, I'd love to work with him again, blah, blah, blah. Well, he was there for the taking. It sounds like we contacted him. In fact, Eriksen came out and said that, didn't he? I received a phone call, but they didn't follow up on it. If Conte wanted him, I don't get it. I think
it's fair to say, though, Craig, that Eriksen signing a 3-year deal at Manchester United, I don't think Spurs were offering a 3-year deal. I don't think it would have been anywhere near that.
No, but if they'd offered him a 2-year deal with a 1-year extension like we sling onto most of our players, if he really wanted to stay in London and come back to Tottenham, a Champions League club, I don't know. Obviously, it must have been something like that, mustn't it? I think you're right, because it sounds like Conte wanted him. But anyway, Christian Eriksen, probably discussion for another day.
You guys always seem to get away with talking about Pochettino, Eriksen. If I say it, I'm like, stop living in the past, move on. Rich, let's come to you. In the 49th minute, Manchester United had another chance. Rashford with a shot, Lloris with another good save. A minute later, Harry Kane went close with a shot just wide. 5 minutes later, Manchester United on the attack again. Anthony with a shot just wide. In the 68th minute, Harry Kane had a great chance, brought it down, had a shot. De Gea saved it. He was actually offside. The referee and the linesman let it go. And, of course, Manchester United went up the other end and made it 2-0. Fred had it, bounced off Dyer, fell to Fernandes, who finished superbly 2-0. What did you make of that goal, Rich?
Yeah, it's a class finish, obviously. That's why he's one of the great attacking midfielders, isn't he? And obviously one that slipped through our fingers as well. I think Fernandes just gives you that quality in the final third that we haven't got. Sash obviously said about maybe looking for that player that opens up teams, will give us that different dynamic, and that's what we've been missing, and we've been talking about since Eriksen left, that we've not had anybody that fits into that kind of pocket that creates those opportunities. And I think obviously Fernandes is a player that in the Spurs team would flourish. You can just tell. But Man United were a far better team tonight, and it was just really disappointing to watch our team just play so poorly.
Yeah. Craig, let's come to you. More Manchester United chances. 73rd minute, Fernandes with a long-range effort, comfortable for Lloris this time. A minute later, Rashford with a shot. Lloris with a wonderful save, pushed it round for a corner. In the 81st minute, Fernandes made it 3-0, but it was ruled offside. Rounded Hugo Lloris, put it in the empty net, but of course it was offside. And then Spurs made the subs late on. Basuma coming off, Moura coming on, Dyer off, Sanchez on, Doherty off, Sessegnon on. And then just a minute from time, Bentancur and Perisic off, Skip and Spence on. Do you feel that we were lucky tonight, that it was only 2-0?
Yeah, totally. I mean, that save you mentioned there from Rashford, the Hugo one, he was low to his left. I mean, it's just a fantastic save, not quite point blank, but the speed that was travelling at to get his hand on that, a strong hand to push it away for a corner. We could have absolutely got our asses handed to us tonight, and you could argue that we did, even though the possession. I'm totally with Richard on this. I'm very, very surprised. There's only 6% difference in that possession. That really is surprising. But you look at all those other stats: 28 shots to 8, on target 10 to 2. And the corners show that they were pressing more than us as well. I mean, the only thing we're level with them there is fouls. Just an embarrassing performance tonight all round, wasn't it? It's we could pick the bones out of it and say what the problem is, but we're now. I think if Arsenal do win, is it 7 points behind them, or will be? I think if they win their game in hand. Yeah.
Well, the table, Spurs are third in the Premier League. We've played 11. We've won 7. We've drawn 2. We've lost 2. We've got a goal difference of +10. We've got 23 points. We're now 4 points away from Arsenal at the top. And, of course, they do have a game in hand, as do Manchester City, who have 23 points also, but from 10 matches. We've got Newcastle next on Sunday. They're sat in 6th place in the Premier League right now. I suppose it is a silly question to say, who was your man of the match? Of course, it's got to be Hugo Lloris, hasn't it, Sash?
Yeah, definitely. I think he kept us in the game. First half, like we said, it was 0-0, and it was great, and we should have come out all guns blazing. But yeah, it's a shame because Hugo had a great night. You thought that would have inspired and egged on the rest of the team to go right. Okay, we need to sort ourselves out and move forward. We just didn't get out of second gear. Really, really disappointing.
Rich, Craig, do you want to add any more on Hugo Lloris's performance tonight?
Oh, world class, wasn't he? Obviously, led from the back. I think obviously sometimes within the gameplay, he really struggles to influence the game further up the pitch. But I think today, obviously, really did show what kind of keeper he is, and he's still got some years left in as a world-class professional, and pleased that we've still got him. I just think it's a terrible state of affairs when your keeper, after losing 2-0, is man of the match. And I think he deserved to be 4 or 5, to be honest. And I think Conte's got away with one. If we would have lost 4 or 5, it would have been a more of a true reflection on actually the game itself.
Can I just ask, when Jose Mourinho was manager and we played this style of football, there were some people in the stadium not happy, and they expressed their unhappiness. Do you think that is going to happen under Conte as well?
I think so. I think it will happen eventually, because that's, I think any Tottenham fan would take this brand of football if it breeds, if we get a trophy. I think we'd all settle for that. But when you're playing this brand of football and getting nothing from it, I think the fans will eventually turn on Conte. And it seems crazy to say that at the moment, because I think he's still got a majority of the fan base behind him. However, I do know some Spurs fans that are season ticket holders that hate him, that don't like his standard of football, will never like the way he plays the game, and wouldn't be sad to see him go if he went tomorrow. So, I think the majority of fans like him and they back him, but there is still minority that just won't ever take to the way he plays football and the style of football he plays. So even though, up until tonight, we had the best start to a Premier League season ever.
Yeah.
So
and that's the kind of thing that happens to us as well, though, doesn't it? We'll play like 2 or 3 games and we look like we're moving forwards. Then we come up against a team like Arsenal or Man United and literally like don't turn up, and it's not just an average kind of performance. It's literally like piss poor. It's so weak.
Off the scale bad.
It's so weak. It's back to obviously like the Nuno days. It's like so weak.
And it's not that bad. It's the non. It's almost like, because I've said this before, Chris, I think you agree with me. There's certain things you just turn up and you expect us to beat them. Like your Evertons, with the greatest respect, like your Evertons and even Newcastle. I'll sling Newcastle in there, as we got them next. It's the top 6 teams. That's where you really want to see the performances and put in the performances. If we'd lost tonight and we played brilliantly and Manchester United had just been better, wouldn't have an issue with that. It's the way we've been playing these top 6 games that is inexcusable. And when it happened under Mourinho, it's happening under Conte. Let's not even mention Nuno. To the end of Poch, it was happening. So, is it something intrinsic within the club that is ingrained in the club, or are the players just simply not good enough? And I refuse to believe that, because I think we are on a par with Manchester United, if not a bit better. It's just they're not turning up in these games, are they?
Effort and passion has got to be there in every single game, especially the big ones, especially the biggest rivals and the biggest clubs. Before we move on to talk about Antonio Conte and preview the Newcastle game, do any one of you 3 want to add anything more about tonight's game?
No, I'm not annoyed with the game. I'm not even drinking beer. Normally, Stash, I've had a couple of beers by this point. I'm not even drinking beer. I've just had orange juice. I just can't even have a beer.
Well, Sash, let's come on to you. I want to talk a little bit about Antonio Conte. Do you think that Tottenham will match Antonio Conte's ambitions to win silverware at Spurs? Because he said last week, at this time, my contract isn't important. I'm focusing on the next few games. And the Italian journalist Gianluca Di Marzio has come out and said that Spurs have to match his ambitions. Otherwise, he will go back to Italy and manage a top team there. What do you think about this situation with Antonio Conte at the moment? Because, like I said, I feel that he has transformed this football club. Yes, fans are unhappy tonight because of the way that we've lost against Manchester United. Of course, we all felt unhappy about that defeat at Arsenal, as we've already spoken about. Do you want him to stay? Do you think he's going to stay? And when do you think that, if he is going to sign a new contract, when do you think that will be?
So, I think the first thing is, 100% want him to stay, but I want him to be backed as well. And I think that's what he wants. He doesn't want to be at a club where he's not going to be able to play his brand of football with the players that he wants. And if he can't do that, then he's the type of manager that's going to go, well, sod you lot, I'm going, because I've tried with what I've been given and this isn't for me. And I wouldn't blame him for going. But then that puts us in that situation where, okay, if we're not going to back him, every other manager out there, we've had Mourinho come in, a serial winner. We've had Conte come in, a serial winner. And if they've not been backed, who wants to come to our club? Who wants to come and manage Spurs if they know they're not going to get backed? And that's probably going to be somebody who's trying to get a foothold into a Premier League club and trying to make a name for themselves. But is that the type of manager that we want? And that's a struggle. And so, John, I like Conte as a manager. It's great when the crowd is singing his name. We don't normally do that with managers, but we do it, and it feels like we want him to succeed. But I think Levy and the board need to understand that there is still work to be done, and unless they're going to put their hands in their pocket again and support him in the way that he wants, he might be out by the end of the season. I think if he doesn't get what he wants maybe in January and the promises are fulfilled by the end of the season, why would he stay? I wouldn't blame him if he went.
It seems mad, Rich, doesn't it? Like Craig said earlier, the best start to a Premier League season after 10 matches, and then just a couple of days later, so many angry fans about our boss.
It just shows, though, doesn't it, how the performance and like you said, Chris, the lack of passion, lack of real desire to show the fans what it means to wear that shirt. When that happens, it obviously hits hard, and we know that every week 60,000 fans would give anything to swap places and be on that pitch and be a Spurs player and represent the club. I think when players aren't doing that, it's really disappointing, because you know that they're getting paid well, they've got the opportunity to represent themselves and the club in the Champions League, trying to win trophies for a club that wants to win it and deserves to win trophies. But in the past, there just hasn't been the building blocks in place for us to do that. I feel with Antonio Conte and his history in certain tournaments gives us that opportunity for success. But we've had that with a previous manager who I won't mention, and he wasn't backed. So unless he is backed in January and at the end of the season, we're literally back to this, going for another manager that's on his way up, and that's not worked for us.
He has to be back, no, Rich, doesn't he? He has to be.
Yeah, for sure.
It has to happen.
But also, it's like, just go after those players early. Like I saw somebody in the comments say, Spurs shop at Iceland and Man City shops at Harrods, and it is true. It is true. Like, so you look at some of the players that we've actually brought in, and yes, we were pleased that they went in early after certain players, but some of them have just, not really. Longley and Basuma maybe needs a little bit more time. But we need players that come into the side, instantly make us better, like Perisic. I think Perisic is a good player in certain scenarios, can be found out with, obviously, very fast attacking players down that side. But that's where we've got Sessegnon coming in the wings, and hopefully you can mentor him to be a better player, or the player that we actually thought we were buying from Fulham in the first place.
Craig, Conte, do you think he's going to be here for, I don't know, another season or two, or do you think he's going to be here for the long term?
I actually think he'll definitely still be here at the end of the season. I just can't see us getting rid of him before then, because let's be honest, his contract runs till the end of the season, doesn't it, at the moment? So it'll probably cost us too much to get rid of him.
Option for another year, yeah.
I think do you know what? Whether they take that option up, the sensible time for me would be during the World Cup to have a discussion with him and see where. Well, I think it's important we're still in that top four going into the World Cup. Definitely, I think that's got to be something that's a must. It sounds like he is happy. Apart, if you just take tonight out of the equation for a minute, it sounds like he is happy. He's more settled. If you believe what you hear, he's more settled at Tottenham than he has been at a lot of the clubs he's been to recently. So that can only be a good thing. If anybody listened to Ali Gold, I think he was right in saying there's not enough money in Italian football at the moment to give Conte the job, and I don't think the jobs are out there. I don't know where he would go. So I don't think we've got that worry. But come back to what you already said. He's got to be backed, hasn't he? And given the players that he wants. Personally, I think Basuma was a good buy. I thought that was a real statement sign along with Richarlison, because he was one of the best midfielders in the Premier League last season. Yet he looked, today he just didn't look like that player for whatever reason. But I hope with the players, and I'm sure they do, for all the stick they get, but I'm sure the players realise that how much it costs those fans like Chris to go every single game home and away, when it's 2 games a week. You're probably spending hundreds of pounds for the price of everything in the world at the moment, petrol and just the cost of living, to actually plough your money into watching Tottenham and then getting offered that up. It's just not on, is it? And I think that's what gets people's backs up. And it comes down to what we've said already. Show a bit of passion, show a bit of fight, and the fans will be with you 100%, win, lose or draw. But he's serving up performances like they did tonight. That is what gets fans' backs up. It really is. And we can't afford to continue like that because there's only one way that will go.
Sash, comment on screen now. What's the difference between Jose Mourinho and Antonio Conte?
One's Portuguese.
Seriously, what's the difference between the two of them? You don't want to answer that one, do you?
No. It's difficult because that's the thing. It's not the most attractive football. That's that, and that's the thing. So, what's the difference? I don't know. With Conte, I feel like he's more of a Tottenham man. That's how it feels. I think Jose, when he came in, I think he was trying to be that person, but we soon found that it was his way or no, and that's it. Whereas Conte, I think he's won the fans over, and that's the thing. And I think we believe in him. I think we're trying to believe in him and trying to trust the process. It's just how long do we stick with it for? And I don't think it's his fault. I think quite a lot of it is just the tools that he has available to him. I keep saying tools, players that he has available
Some
to
of
him.
my tools, mate. You're right.
I'll let you say that. But yeah, it's that's the thing. It's so I think the difference is that he's got the backing of most of the fans. I think that's the big difference between the two.
Can I just go around all three of you quickly, and you tell me when you think Antonio Conte will be Spurs manager 2? Rich, what do you reckon?
Why do you always come to me first?
Well, because you want Pochettino back, so it seems right to start with you.
Well, yeah, hopefully then, if Pochettino's not got a job in January. No, I think Conte will be in the job until the end of the season, and then depending on investment over the next 2 windows. I think with a couple of his interviews, he said that he needs 2 or 3 more windows to get the side that he wants, and if he hasn't got the signings that he needs in the positions he needs, then maybe that'll be the time that he walks away.
What do you think, Greg?
I still stick with it. I think he'll be here till the end of the season, at least. And what the club will be thinking about is all the players Paratici is buying for him are for Conte. Even Jed Spence, he signed off on Jed Spence. And if you check him and get somebody else in, you've got to go through that rebuilding process and getting in the players the new manager wants. So I hate to use the phrase, we're kind of stuck in Conte. That's not what I mean at all. But we're committed to Conte is probably a better way of saying it. And we've got to stick with it. We've got to stick with it. And I hope the fans do stick with him, because we are one of the top scorers in the league. People keep forgetting that. They're saying we're boring and don't score goals. We do score a bloody lot of goals, but they seem to come in 1 or 2 games. And it's like tonight, we might get 6. We might go out and put 6 past Newcastle or something like that. So when we get it right,
I doubt it. So, you keep dissing Newcastle. They've only lost 1 game in the Premier League all season.
I know. I should stop there. They are playing very well. They're playing really good football this season.
You put Newcastle in the same bracket as Everton.
I know. You're right. Yeah, I've got to stop doing that. You are right. They're much better side than Everton this year. But I think my point is that we've got to trust Conte still, and I do. I'm frustrated with tonight's result. I think he got a lot wrong tonight, but I'm not calling for his head. I still think he's the man to take us forward, and I hope he does. And I think we have to see where we are in the summer, to be honest with you, and then I think Conte will decide on his own, because he's got a habit of walking away if he don't get what he wants, doesn't he? So, and then who do you blame? Daniel Levy, the club, I hope they back him, and be very interested to see what we do in the January transfer window.
Sash, just very quickly before we talk about Newcastle, how long do you think Conte will be Spurs manager?
I echo what the other chaps have said, and I think he'll definitely be here for the rest of the season. I think he'll decide when he wants to go, not Levy getting rid of him. I think that's where we sort of are at the moment. I don't think unless something drastic, really, really drastic happens, and I don't believe it would do under his managership at the moment. But I think he's going to decide, and if he doesn't get what he wants in January and next summer, or the promise of what he wants next summer, then I'll wish him all the best. Then I think it's a loss for us at the end of the day.
You know what? I can't bear to think about us changing manager again, especially from Conte. I tell you what, I've said this so many times. How can you go from like Pochettino to Mourinho to Conte and not win anything? I'd be devastated if that happens. Anyway, we have got another 3 games in the next 10 days. Games really are coming thick and fast. Next up, Newcastle at home on Sunday in the Premier League at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. Then followed by Sporting at home in the Champions League on the Wednesday. And then the following Saturday, Bournemouth away in the Premier League. Now, I know that Craig has been dissing Newcastle, but they have only lost one season in the Premier League. They have only lost the one. That was to Liverpool away at Anfield. They're sitting in 6th place right now. They've played 11. They've won 4. They've drawn 6. Lost just to 1. Goal difference +9. They have 18 points. They're only 5 points away from us. Sash, let's start with you on this one. Newcastle at home on Sunday. How do you see this one going? What have you made of Newcastle so far?
Yeah, I mean they've had a much better season this season. I think Eddie Howe's done a good job with them, and I think he's showing that they're playing better football, and it shows on the table. The changes that he's made. It's one of those games where I expect a win, and after today's performance, I'm not 100% confident. But we're playing at home. I'm sure the lads will come out fighting, and we'll end up getting a result. And for me, I'm going down. We'll have a 2-0. I don't think we'll demolish them like we did with Leicester, but I think we'll make hard work of it, and we'll probably end up with a 2-0 win at the end of it.
Well, they've beaten Nottingham Forest this season. They've beaten Fulham and Brentford, and tonight they beat Everton 1-0 with an Almiron wonder goal. If you haven't seen it, do check it out. Rich, let's come to you on this game, Newcastle at home on Sunday. What do you think?
Yeah, they've got a lot of creative players, haven't they? I think Eddie Howe's built and building a team. He just needs to try and find somebody in those important positions that can put it in the back of the net. So Callum Wilson's obviously a little bit injury prone, and I still think they need to get somebody in those forward positions to put it in the back of the net. But Almiron's playing well. Obviously, you've still got Maximum as well. He's flying down the wing. For me, I think we might have a little bit too much for them. I think is Kulusevski going to be back for the game? I think he's
could be.
Yeah, he's in full training, isn't he? So. Maybe he'll nick a goal and it'll be 2-0, 2-1.
Craig, what are you thinking about this Newcastle game? I know you put them in the bracket of Everton, but they've looked a decent team this season.
No, they have. Yeah. And if that came across, I was comparing them to Everton. Newcastle are a better side than Everton, 100%. Always had a bit of a soft spot for Newcastle purely because what they went through with the Mike Ashley years, and I think the Newcastle fans are some of the best in the country outside of Tottenham because they packed St James's Park out week in, week out, even when it was, they were down the division. Absolutely fantastic fan base. I've got a couple of Geordie friends that go home and away, and you cannot fault the Newcastle fans. And yes, they've got money coming to the club, and they've got some brilliant players. Gameres, is it? The centre midfield. I think what a fantastic player he is. They are looking dangerous, and they are building a quality side there. And Trippier's obviously a danger from set pieces, and I still think Trippier's a great right back as well. So it's going to be a very tough game against Newcastle. I think we will just about have enough against them. I think if you're asking for a prediction, I think we'll win 2-1, but I think it will be a very, very tight game.
Sash, let's come to you. Will Antonio Conte stick with his 3-5-2, or will he go back to the 3-4-3?
I think if Kulusevski's back, then I think he'll go back to 3-4-3. equally, even if he's not back, I don't know whether he'll start with Mora, because I think I feel like he needs to make a statement. I think fans want to see attacking football, and I think against a team, I know Newcastle are doing well, but I think that's the right type of formation to play against that particular team.
Rich, wouldn't it be nice to get Kieran Trippier back?
Yeah, especially for them free kicks that Harry Kane keeps taking. Yeah. You know what? I'm glad we didn't have a free kick tonight.
Yeah, we haven't spoken about free kicks tonight. That's one thing. Yeah. Well, Emerson Royale will be back from suspension. So,
Ooh.
Will Emerson come back in, or will Matt Doherty keep his place?
Is that a question for me?
I'm not answering that.
Give Jed Spence a go. Come on, man. Give Jed a free Jed.
I agree. If there's a game to start Jed Spence, surely against Newcastle, where there's not much pressure against the big 6 team, I think Jed Spence over Emerson on Sunday.
Jed Spence heavily hinted that he's going to be playing the cup game against Forest in a couple of weeks' time. It doesn't look like he's going to be getting a Premier League start anytime soon, does it?
Sadly not. No. I think he deserves a run. I think all the fans would like to see him.
Craig, do you see any other changes that Antonio Conte could make? Because, of course, as I said, Emerson Royale is back from suspension. Could Sessegnon come in for Perisic? Could Lenglet come in for Davis? The midfield, the main two, I know, of course, Basuma played with the formation today, but Bentancur and Højbjerg always seem to be there. Oliver Skipp's not getting a lot of game time at the moment. Are you surprised by that?
A little bit. I mean, he had obviously a bad injury and he's still working his way back, but it kind of says to me that Conte doesn't fully trust Skip in that position yet, and whether that's a fitness thing or the fact he just trusts Bentancur and Højbjerg more and finds them a better partnership, it probably is that. There's only certain positions that we've covered before where he trusts rotation completely, which speaks perhaps volumes for the squad, and that's left centre-back, left wing-back, to a certain extent, right wing back. If you're asking me what I think he'll go with, I think he'll go back to the 3 up top. I think if Kulusevski's fit, I think Kulusevski will start with Kane and Son. I think he will go Lenglet, Dyer and Romero. Sessegnon on the left. I'm going to say Emerson on the right because I think that's what he'll go with. Not what I'd necessarily pick myself, but I think that's what he will go with. And the 2 in the middle, Højbjerg and Bentancur. And I think that's how he'll set up against Newcastle. So yeah, free to be proven wrong on that one.
So, Craig, what's your score prediction? 2-1 Spurs?
I'd say 2-1 Tottenham, yeah.
Rich, what are you going for?
2-0.
2-0.
Yeah.
2-0 Spurs. Sass, what are you going for?
Yep, 2-0. Scrappy game, but 2-0.
After today, and after seeing Newcastle have drawn 6 out of 11, I'm going to go for a 1-1 draw. Obviously, I hope that we win. Hope and pray that we bounce back because, of course, we've had a good home record, certainly of late, under Antonio Conte. So hopefully we will get the 3 points and bounce back. Thanks so much to the 3 of you for joining me on this evening's podcast. Sash, please tell everyone where they can find you and tell everyone about Spurs Reach again and where they can find information about Spurs Reach.
Yeah, so Spurs Reach, the official supporters association for fans for race, ethnicity and cultural heritage. Where if anybody wants to join or get more information, we're on the supporters club page on the Tottenham Hotspur website, and we're on Instagram and Twitter at Spurs Reach. Got loads of events coming up in the new year and loads of exciting things for our members. So if anybody wants to join and just wants to know a bit more, then just follow us on Instagram and Twitter, and then we've got all the details for joining on there.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on, Sash. So thanks so much for coming on. I hope you've enjoyed it.
It's been great. Can we have a winning game next time, right?
Absolutely. And Richard, Whitehead MBE, thank you so much for joining us again, and tell everyone what you're up to at the moment, where they can find you.
I'm training for another marathon. I've got New York in November.
Wow.
So I did Great South Run on Sunday. And then New York, go there in a couple of weeks, and then that'll be my last race of the year. and then just spend a bit of time with the family and just chill out a little bit before I start training back on the track 23. So all go, and obviously be really busy with the foundation, doing very similar sort of work to obviously Sash in the disability community, and obviously working with the Spurs Ability Foundation that obviously supports the inclusive aspect of the fans with disabilities in the stadium. So,
how many marathons have you done this year, Rich?
Oh no, I've only done one, but London was my 75th that I've done.
Wow.
In total,
Wow.
When I get to 100, I'm finishing, I tell you.
That is incredible. And Craig, thanks so much for joining us this evening. Tell everyone where they can find you and what you've been up to. Or what you're up to.
Absolutely no problem at all, Chris. I always enjoy coming on Win, Lose or Draw. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at Diamond9. I don't really post that much, but okay, it's generally about Tottenham, to be honest with you. What have I been up to? Trying to get the golf handicap down as much as possible while the weather holds out. So playing a bit of golf with my son, but yeah, had a really good round the other day. So my dream of playing on the European Tour, or the DP Tour as it's called now, or the PGA Tour, is still alive, but I'm really not as good as that. So yeah, just try to enjoy life as much as possible. But Spurs always gets in the way. So, but I still love them and I'll still support them. But always a pleasure to come on, Chris, and I always appreciate your work. And Sash, I think it's absolutely great foundation you got there, and I think you're going to do some really good stuff for the club and the supporters, so well done to that. And Richard, of course, absolutely respect. I don't know how you do 2 marathons in a year, let alone however many you do. So it's absolutely incredible how you complete 75 marathons.
Yeah,
brilliant. But thoroughly enjoyable coming on. Always better when we win, of course. Yeah, but it's one of them things and one of the joys of supporting Tottenham Hotspur. So I'll see you all again soon.
Yeah. Well, Sash, Richard, Craig, thank you so much. And as Craig just said there, hopefully Spurs can get back to winning ways on Sunday at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, and we can pick up the 3 points. Thanks so much for all of your questions and your comments today. And I'll see you on Sunday. Until then, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.